Hello, hello, guys. So here we are with the real stuff,
Man,
the
we
realtor stuff.
finally made it. Finally made it.
That's pretty cool, man. So this is our first episode ever, and I came here and I have with me Jay Granieri,
Hello, hello, hello.
my guest and my future co-host in this episode.
I feel like this is the notorious B.I.G. It's all a dream.
That's pretty cool. So I'm Augusto Alaja with the real thing, the real stuff of the realtors. So let's go for it. That's pretty cool.
That's be super exciting stuff here. We're gonna.
That's great, man. So basically, this first episode, the idea here is like that we discuss the podcast,
That's
and
great.
we see a little bit what we're going to be doing, and what is the good ideas about, and what we should be talking about for the realtors and
Yeah.
for the real estate industry, right?
I love it.
And we were just discussing about being, edgy and
Yeah.
be controversial. So what do you think about that?
Well, I mean, there's so much content out there today, but there's the type of conversations that we can have that are very top line, which is like, the basic, how did you get there? What did you do? What did you do at an early age of real estate versus, today to really kind of, break into this game. But then there's the other stuff, which I think is like the kind of stuff that's behind the scenes. We glamorize real estate a lot of times. And a lot of people see, real estate now on TV and on, in podcasts, and people are really like taking it to a really interesting level that people idealize. But then, what we forget is that there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that's
Yes.
not so glamorous.
And it's not easy as well,
It's
right?
not
Takes
easy.
time sometimes.
It's hard. It's a hard, long road, and if you're lucky enough to get into this business, you'll be lucky enough to know what it's like to work, 40-hour plus week without making a dollar, and that's not hard. That's not easy. It's hard. And, to me, I think it's important to show people, the fun side of real estate, the educational side of real estate, but also what goes on behind the scenes, the true dirt of real estate, and how maybe we can learn from that. I always think about, what kind of motivational people that I've learned through in my life. And the one thing that's always proven true, I think it's a constant with everybody's advice, is that you learn more from the mistakes and the failures than you do the wins and successes.
That's sure. Something that whenever I came to the United States and I was seeing the realtors and that, like, oh my gosh, I would like to be like them, right? And of course, I got into a different path with being a builder and being a contractor.
Right.
And I look from outside, but something that, I think was very interesting that I learned from you is like realtors, they are everywhere. Right,
Yeah.
everyone is a realtor.
Everybody knows one.
Yeah,
Or married to one.
But professional realtors is something a little bit different, right?
Yeah.
So people that really make their living
True.
only doing real estate.
True. Yeah.
And you was the first one that I really getting to know a little bit. And how everyone wants to be a realtor or a part-time realtor, and why only so few of them break into this and then really could make a living out of it.
Right, right.
So what do you think?
And I agree with you. Yes, I think probably the hardest thing, and it's kind of a running joke at my house, is that anytime I throw a party, I have to go through the guest list because I'm recognizing that at least 50% of the people I'm inviting to my house are competing agents. So it's either somebody that I know that has their license or someone that's married to somebody that has a license, and it's it kind of goes back to how you get your real estate license, right? We take a test, we go through some courses, but at the end of the day, it's not a 4-year degree to get to where we go, and it's certainly not some long apprenticeship like you might have to go through to being a general contractor or an inspector or something. It's a fairly relatively quick process. The tests are moderately difficult to weed out some people, but it's one of these pass or fail things that you keep taking over and over and over again. I'll give you a little disclosure. I have been a sales guy all my life, and when I went to get my real estate license, I'm just not the best test taker. And
Imagine.
this is a little true confessions here. And so
You're a better model, right?
I'm a better model. I look better in a suit. I was the guy that you looked at and go, yeah, he should be a real estate agent. But I was not a good test taker, and I knew that going into it. But I knew that there would be a light at the end of the tunnel. Now, I'm not going to tell you how many times I took this test. I knew you were going to ask me that. I knew you were going to ask me that. So you have to pass your first test.
I got my driver's license by the first try. Okay?
Right. So you're setting the bar pretty high.
Let's talk
for
about
me.
the driver's license. How many times you took
I was
it?
good on it twice. I can say I'm just not good at tests. It's you know what you're good at, and you know what you're not. And so sales, I knew I'd have it. The minute I got the license, I knew it was going to at least be a 6-figure job coming out the gate, and that's what that was my kind of like our first year goal. But I took the test a few times, and my philosophy, and I remember this too because at the time I was taking the test, I was studying at home, I was studying at coffee shops, all these different places, and ultimately I ended up. I ended up going to my parents' house for whatever reason. I just figured it was quiet. You know, I didn't have the kids around. I didn't have my dog around. So I'm studying at my parents' house. And I remember my mother coming over and just kind of looking at me. And she knew how many times I had taken this test so far. And just the look of defeat in her face. And I remember she looked at me and she said, well, what happens here? And I said, well, you take this test and if you fail it, you get to take it again. And you just keep taking it over and over and over again until you pass it. And she says, well, the good news is there's only so many ways they can ask you those questions. So I knew eventually I was going to get it, right? Yeah. And I did. Now, it's interesting because my perspective now, almost a decade in this business, looking back, is that, everybody deserves their fair shot at getting their licenses, and understanding how to make this. I think the challenging part about it in my profession is not so much going up against another real estate professional agent, that's in this full time. It's really the ones that are in it sort of part time or they have the license, for various different reasons. That's the toughest part I think about being in this business. And that's probably where the muddy the water kind of comes into play. If I go up ahead, there's many times I'll go up against professional agents for listings or buyers that have to choose between us, me or them. But the toughest part, of course, is when you have somebody that might not really be in this, full time. They don't have the full scope of what we do and deal with the hard and the good and day to day. But they get the deal. And that's the one that probably burns the most, I
see.
Yeah, that's the hardest.
The other day I was going to a restaurant, a Brazilian restaurant, right? A steakhouse.
No,
sure.
You.
Yes, and then when I was coming back, I parked my car with a valet, and the guy comes to me and say, hey, and I say, oh my gosh, I did something wrong. The valet say, am I driving wrong? Am I driving to the wrong place here? What's going on, man? And I was leaving, right? I was driving out, and I have my sign for painting, and the Captain Painter staff in my car saying, here, get my business card here. If you need a realtor, I can be a realtor. And I say, oh my gosh, the valet is a realtor too. Something that I see right now, and I was talking to some realtors, and right now I want to let you know. One of my business decisions is to go after the real estate agents and to hire them to be my salespeople, because I know that they are pretty good salespeople. They have a good pretty good education in sales. Mm-hmm. Because I'm seeing a very hard moment right now, and people market is not as it was like a couple of years ago, or even 1 year ago.
Sure,
market is changing, and I think. We're gonna have some realtors wash out of the business, right? So I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you feel about that?
Yeah,
what do you feel people are getting a little bit stressed and
absolutely,
disappointed and
it's feast or famine, right? So you look back before COVID happened, maybe about 2.5 years ago. We had a very stable market. It was on the rise. I mean, we had great interest rates, good healthy supply of inventory in the market. People's incomes were were doing well, and the national average was going up, right? So a lot of people had a lot of good things happening for them. It was a good market. We had seasonality in our sales, so summers were a little sleepier here than the falls and springtime. Usually after the holidays or boat show, you get these big couple months of sales, and then things kind of die off for a little bit when people kind of go away for vacations in the summer, and then picks back up again after the fall. That's been the same thing year after year after year. And they'd have a healthy some amount of agents that would kind of come in and some that would exit as well too. Challenges is when you have something like COVID, where at first you thought everything was going to shut down, and it exploded the real estate industry. Everybody decided that they had their sights set on Florida, and so like gangbusters, almost within 6 months, sales were just skyrocketing, lines of people out the door. So obviously, from the current realtors that were in the market, they were loving it, right? Buyers and sellers were fighting left and right. They were in controls of the keys. It was a great time to be a real estate agent. But guess what? Everybody else on the outside that was looking in going, hey, maybe this is a good time for me to get my license. So there was a mass drive to people to go get their license and see if they can kind of tap into that piece of the pie, And what happened was that you're right. The amount of licenses that were issued over the last 2 years was just, was historical as well too, just as the prices were. Now what you're seeing is that the inventory has slowed down, and to your point, it got competitive again. So I kind of feel like there's a percentage of real estate agents that have sort of a swing door effect. They come in when it's good, and they leave when it's not, right? Okay. And the question is how much of an impact do they make when they really are inside, right? Yes. So for right now, we are seeing people that are consolidating. They're either joining teams because they feel like being out there on their own is a lot more difficult than it was 6 months ago. We're seeing that trend happening. At least I am. I'm taking on new people for my team now. People, the agents just don't want to be on their own. They want more support. They want to use other listings off of each other to help each other find new listings, right? And then, of course, the part-time, let's call them the part-time agents, there's not a lot of deals out there for even themselves. So they're kind of, debating whether or not they want to hold their license or keep it active because really the reason why they got the license in the first place was maybe to save a couple bucks on a personal purchase, versus actually getting out there and trying to compete against us, And that's a good thing though. I mean, I think it's a good learning lesson for people that are working with real estate agents that they should take a little bit more time to kind of qualify the agent that they're working with. So to your point, do you hire the guy for the valet? If you interview an agent and he has 3 other jobs other than real estate, he's probably not the real estate agent's not his first. Being a realtor is not his first job. So, but there is agents on my agents on my team that have a second job because they're trying to pay the bills until real estate can pay it for them. Because at the end of the day, it's tough. It's tough to go from maybe making a salary or an hourly wage to just nothing. It's a very lonely, dark place to be.
I see this. I know that but do you consider that we are in a recession time for realtors? It's a statement that you make today or not?
I don't know about a recession. I think that...
Well, let's rephrase it.
Yeah.
A very, very dark time for realtors.
No, I mean, I don't, we're not in some sort of financial challenge. At least that's not what I'm seeing. And certainly from the advice that I'm getting from my friends who are in the financial markets and in the mortgage markets, we're not in a situation where the job market's being affected or the stock markets are, plunging. Those are scary times to be in because those heavily influence the buying habits of buyers or selling habits of sellers. What I'm seeing is that we're just in this sort of weird, inventory shortage, which puts things in, I do see more inventory coming on the market now than I did before, which is a positive, I guess. So let's talk about positives and negatives. from a recession standpoint, it's more difficult to get the listings. So I think that that's where you'll sort of see the people that have some tenure in the business can rely on past, past clients to give them referrals. The agents that are doing it full time, it's one thing to be the valet guy to hand the card off to you and maybe catch it. He's fishing. He's catching the guy that doesn't have anybody that they know, and he catches him at the good moment, and he gives him the card, and the guy goes, "Sure, why not?" Right? That doesn't happen a lot. In this business, it's the where you really win the deals is the work. It's the behind the scenes stuff that we talked about. It's going to the networking events. It's going out to be social all the time. But it's business social, as well too. And so if you're not out there belly to belly talking to people, and then you're building that sort of credibility that you know what you're doing, you don't really have to worry too much about the valet guy.
But do you really think that there's nothing changing with this new interest rates? Like, it's not a little bit more hard for anyone, for the guys that's in the research, because let me tell you this, something very strange is happening. I have another guy that was an old timer in the real estate, really experienced, and he said, "Hey man, I would like to create something here. I would like to do a business with you." I'm saying, there's not something that a realtor that's making a lot of money will be considering, and it's happening a little bit more and more.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, listen, I think that you have to remember the position that I'm in where, and you and anybody, right, is that, it's not really something that I sell, right? I mean, I help people, I always love this comment whenever I talk to new agents and, we're trying to teach them how to talk to people, in their elevator pitches and things like that. One of the first common mistakes that a lot of people kind of say when they're breaking into real estate, and someone says, "What do you do?" And they say, "Well, I do real estate." Just the whole grammatically incorrect phrase that they're saying is no one does real estate, right? It doesn't make any sense. I don't even think that grammatically sounds right. I do real estate. You help people buy and sell real estate, right? And the truth of the fact is that there's no skilled trade that we have other than ourselves, our negotiation skills, and then the experience that we learn, from the street, from out there selling, actually doing what we do. We have to understand. It's almost like we have to understand contracts and understand how to negotiate. And the reason why I'm saying this is that you take someone like a contractor who has a skill set, they know how to build something tangible, right? We don't have anything tangible that we do. We help people, right? And our value is in that. So if we can't guide you and give you advice and things like that, then our value is not there. So you're talking about the complexity and the recession of like, will things change for real estate agents, and why maybe a real estate agent might want to venture and do a different business than real estate himself. So let's say, like for myself, why would I want to start a joint venture doing something else besides selling real estate? Well, at the end of the day, we're like anybody else. We're looking for plan Bs or investment opportunities as well, and we're keeping it in the space of real estate so that we kind of understand it, right? It'd be very similar to somebody understanding investing, in the stock market or whatnot. Well, we understand buying and selling properties and valuations and, a little bit of the understanding of how to improve a property to help its value. So to find a person that you come across that might want to start a business with you on the side, they might want to, they might be looking at that to kind of increase the opportunity for them long term. Remember, once again, it's feast or fathom with what I do. So if I don't go out there and make the relationships happen and build a pipeline, we don't eat. It's as simple as that. There's no paycheck coming in there. So you'll see a lot of real estate agents diving into property management, so that they can get into the rental business and develop sort of a steady stream of rental incomes that can come from that. You see a lot of agents jumping into the flipping business, right? So understanding the value of a property, and instead of giving that good deal listing away to another buyer, they buy it themselves, or they take on a partner, and then they flip the house and they make a small profit.
Something that is something that I always consider as a business person and getting to business opportunities is like, what is the difference between scaling up or investing or double down into what you are good at and making more money,
Yeah.
or diversifying.
Yeah.
And that goes for everywhere. And
Yeah.
I mentioned, of course, the realtor goes to,
I struggle with that.
to property management and eventually flipping houses and stuff. They would not. Is that not if they invest their time and if they, get a little bit better in what they're doing, like expand their networking.
Yeah.
They could not make even more money being
Yeah.
a better realtor instead
Yeah.
of dispersing their time to other stuff. What do you think about that?
Well, from what I've learned in just sales alone, the one recipe for making smart money is come up with an idea that you can do that makes money while you sleep.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, if the only dollar that I ever made was created by what I do, tomorrow I walk out the door and I get hit by a bus and my family makes no more money. That's why we come up with investment strategies, things like that, 401ks, whatever you're putting your money into, right? So your idea is that, money sitting under your mattress doesn't make you any money, right? So yes, you can make a very, very handsome, living selling real estate, but what are you going to do with that money? And so that's, I think, where the diversity comes from, is like they're looking for ways to diversify themselves so that, okay, I have a really strong year and maybe the next year is not so strong. COVID could have went a whole completely different way. They could have shut down the industry for 2 years versus enhanced it, Well, what happens if that happened? Did I not, if I made a lot of money the 2 or 3 years before that, I probably should have looked into buying an income property, because when COVID shut down, the rental market went up as well too, and that was great. So fortunately, we had a rental property and we made really good money off of that, and that was a way to diversify, right? If you can handle a lot of other things, or maybe you have a team that you kind of runs on autopilot so that you have the ability to kind of be there for them, and maybe you're not selling real estate anymore, maybe you're just enhancing the team, and that gives you that advantage time to go and do something else. Like we said, maybe it's starting a partnership with somebody and flipping homes, or maybe it becomes a situation where like let's dabble on doing income properties and collecting a portfolio. I think that's just smart business. I don't think that's it's funny. I look at it from the top down versus the bottom up. If you got a very experienced real estate agent that's doing a lot of other things, then I say, well, I commend them because they made it in the business and then they're diversifying their portfolio of different ways to make money. If I look at it from the bottom up, of the valet guy that wants to do 20 things and hasn't broken into real estate yet, then I'm kind of wondering like, well, where is his focus? I guess that's probably
What will be your advice for people that's starting and they're already talking about diversifying? Because what you see right now is this, right? People is like starting to be realtors and they're talking about investment and Bitcoins and whatever. They're all over the place.
Yeah.
If you have to give like a couple tips, advice, for those guys that is starting up, what will be the secret that you say to them?
Well, when I used to help young agents, kind of develop their strategies and kind of go-to-market strategies, one of the things we always say, it's the common phrase in real estate, is the riches are in the niches. So, there's a lot of young agents coming in the market, and there's a lot of, senior agents trying to reinvent themselves. Every few years we get introduced to something different, right? So last couple years, social media was, the hot button, how to use video and how to use, Instagram, and then it became TikTok, and how to use that to monetize and make money in this business. So you had everybody running to, if you taught a social media class, you were doing well because everybody were sponging them. How do I make money off of this medium, right? Some people get in this market, and if they're lucky enough to have a luxury background, they might steer their ship towards luxury, and they're in that space. I think that's the most important thing. Is I'm not opposed to people gravitating towards the latest trend and trying to to really kind of jump into it, right, and learn that side of the business. Obviously, you got to be careful about spreading yourself too thin, right? So you don't want to try to become the Bitcoin agent, the pickleball agent, the luxury agent, and the millennial agent, unless it all jives together, right? You kind of have to create some sort of identity, and I think that's important. because there's so many real estate agents out there right now competing for the space, those that are doing something a little different and investing in that for a little while over a period of time to build some consistency, right? I think that's the agents that you'll see that will be successful, young or old. It's the ones that are kind of vanilla.
Riches is in the niches, right?
Riches are in the niches. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Write down this
Yeah,
because I
good.
follow this a lot. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. That's
something that I learned, and I start to do, and what I tell people, advise people is like, you should be very good in something.
Yes.
You know, and you should be the best in something, and then after, when you create traction, you can open.
yes.
So you start focusing something, and then once you become the best of what you're doing,
Yep.
you can open. So
Yeah.
that's what I've done as well for my painting.
Smart.
So
It's very smart.
I am the best in my area, and I say now how can I go to that next level?
Yep.
And when you have everything automated, isn't it the right time to do it? And it's very interesting because sometimes people change. People get stressed to invest and to go to a different area, and at the end of the day, they make the same or even less, but their mind is bringing them to the different. You know, our mind. When you start trying to analyze our mind, we are never completely satisfied.
Yeah.
For what we are doing at
Yeah.
the moment. So you have to understand that, and it's very very cool. So for the young people, not the young, but for the new people in the industry, to break into the real estate industry, riches in the niches.
Riches in the niches. I also think that, you definitely got to know your numbers as well too. I mean, one of the things that I've been doing with the agents, that the new agents on my team, a little differently, is kind of starting with their big wishes, their big whys, their goals, but also like listen, at the end of the day, we've got to pay bills. So we got to figure out, you want the Maserati, you want the boats, you want it to travel, but the first thing is you got to protect the house first, right? You got to protect the home. You got bills to pay. So we kind of go through it, almost reverse engineer their goals a little bit. It's not so, I don't want to make it about the money, but I always want to make sure that, they can keep the lights on before they're worrying about how to fill the Porsche up with the gas. And so we're trying to, we try to go backwards and say, okay, well, where do we need to start from? This is what it costs to live. This is what you kind of get from a sale, from an income standpoint. And we kind of marry those two together so they understand, well, to achieve getting to this number, which will provide you the luxuries that you want in life, you need to sell this much. It's pretty simple math. Minus this, this is what you have in the bank. And if that makes you happy, then we're in a happy spot. And at least at that point, from leading a team perspective, I kind of know where you're at. So we have like what we call it a goal and a stretch goal, right? Goal is the goal that you and I will agree to based on all the accountabilities that you say you're going to do, and it's going to and at the end of the day, at the end of the year, we're shooting for this number, right? And that way I can, from a team perspective, I can help forecast where I think my team's going to be. And so if I've got, 3, 4, 5 agents on the team and we've gone through each person's goal and we know where they want to be, but, if my goal is still higher than that, well, then I have a couple options, right? I either got to work harder to get to that goal, or maybe I got to hire some new agents on the team to help me get to that goal, right? But I'm not discrediting each of those agents for what they set their goals for, right? We obviously have a table minimum, but we have a financial goal that they create and that they want. And I basically become their accountability partner, And then all we do is checks and balances. We go quarter by quarter and we check in and say, hey, where are you at with your goal? This is your goal. You set it. We just divided it by 4, so it makes it easy to kind of track. So we don't let you go too far down the road in the path without, me checking in and seeing how you're doing. So quarterly we check in on these agents and see where they're at. And if they're missing the mark, we just go by what they said that they were going to do. Well, you're going to do this much here. You're going to do this much here. You're going to focus on this. You're going to niche this, right? And this is the target. Or how are you doing in those targets? Are you going to those events? Are you reaching out to those people? Are you making the calls?
Who are the guys that is getting? Because it's very interesting. I know that you made a beautiful transition like a couple of years ago. Like you were working for a team, and
Yeah.
now you are having
Yeah.
your own team, developing your own team.
Yeah.
So, first of all, like, what do you see in your team right now? Who are the guys that is thriving the best? And
Yeah.
why you say they're thriving better than the other guys?
I-
What is the characteristics of those new guys that join your team?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
thriving. What their background, what they do, what they think, how they think, why they are, what their secrets. You know.
That's interesting. I think everybody kind of comes from a different position, right? And certainly on my team, I've got people that, might have money already, so money's not their ultimate driver. And I have to curtail that when I sit down with them. I have to understand that, we're not setting financial goals that normally would be the same with someone sitting down with me. I've got to provide for a family and kids and a house and 2 mortgages and blah, blah, blah. This person might come from family money. They might have had a job or something that gave them the luxuries that I didn't have to start out in this business. So you have to kind of understand, I think when I sit down with each individual agent, I kind of have to dive into their life first to understand where they're coming from. It's a personal journey, I think, you take with each person to help them succeed wherever they want to be. The agents that I see probably the most successful are probably the ones that are the most honest with their situation with me, and the ones that are probably coming from a little bit of, I want to say fear, but they have responsibility.
Okay.
And I think that's important.
They're hungry.
They're hungry. I think that's a good way of putting it. Yeah. Give me your hungry, tired, weak, and poor. I think that's the ones I want.
It's the same. And
Yeah.
there's a type of characteristics that you try to find on people. Not necessarily hungry only for the financial things,
Right.
but also hungry for like development. In our
Correct.
company, self-development and knowledge and
Yes.
grow and become a better person. You know?
Yeah. It's tough
But
when
of
you're.
course, be hungry for financial terms is very important if you are talking about business.
Yeah.
And that's very important.
And it's not a male or female thing, because I've got I've actually started hiring my first males on the team. So, the gender side of things, I find, equal, it's more situational, I've got girls.
But there's besides this, there is anything that actionable, like something that someone is doing right now in your team that is like have a higher level of paying back.
Yeah, it has to do with attitude, I think.
Okay.
It's their attitude. I think that where you can have somebody that is that has a spouse that has a secondary income, but if the attitude's in the right place with the person that I'm dealing with, not the one with the income, but the other one, the agent, that their attitude is that they want to be independent. They have this drive to have some independence. They have this drive to be some validation. It's a little ego, I guess. Maybe that's what it is. It's good in certain situations. It might be good to have an ego,
Sure.
because you have some personal goal in mind that you project, of yourself, how you want to be, or how you want to be perceived, or how you want to perceive yourself in a different space than where you currently are. And I think that drive helps people kind of get to where they want to be. Let's face it. If you just sit, if you have if you get into this business and you have the luxury of having your bills kind of paid for you by your spouse, and then you sit down and put goals together, and if you don't hit those goals that month or that quarter, but you make a little bit of money, then you're probably going to be okay and happy. It's a little different if you don't make the numbers that you want to make, or you don't get to the achievement that you wanted to achieve, and it affects you in some sort of way, and unfortunately sometimes, people strive in 2 types of environments: pleasure and pain, right? You probably have heard of that from your Tony Robbins experiences. Pleasure and pain are huge motivators, right? Equally as powerful. And what can motivate somebody from pain, if I don't go out and hit the streets and do what I need to do, I don't get to pay the rent, right? Or pleasure, I'm really looking forward to paying for that wedding, and that makes me happy to think about that, and that drives me to, for that ultimate financial goal to get there. Or, I enjoy the things that the life is providing for me by hitting that goal, and I want to get to that, strive to that, be to that spot. Or maybe you want to run your own team, and that's your goal, right? So you got to get to a certain threshold in life because your ambitious goal is to run a real estate team.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
What's the difference between being a team member and right now a team leader and manager? And how is the struggles, So
Yeah.
share with us a little bit how have been in this path and how it's,
Well,
it's easy, it's difficult. How have been for you?
It's situationally, obviously it's different, different responsibilities and stuff. But I do think, because I worked with a lot of people, with my past team that I was on, and there were quite a few people that have kind of come and gone during those times. We were building a team over 5-6 years. So a lot of people have come and a lot of people went. I will say, kind of the one thing from a perspective standpoint is there's some people that have come into a team perspective and they could be team leaders themselves. So I don't necessarily think that because you're running a team, you're actually the only one that can do the job. And, and there are many people that have kind of come and gone that we've collaborated with, and they've had great ideas, ideas that, that myself or the team leader at the time, didn't come up with himself, but we ran with it. So, but from a perspective of position, I think that, that's just a skill set that you might learn from doing, not just being on a real estate team. It might just be whether you're a good husband or a good wife or a good mother, or a good father, or a good leader in the community. And, it's listening. I think it's a big component of what we do. Empathy. I think it's a big one too, especially in this business where you don't get a lot of instant gratification, so, you could work your entire month and not close a deal when you first start, and you busting your butt out there doing it, and mentally you just beats and wears you down. So I think a lot of that I got off of my previous mentor from being on a team was, I think one of the most valuable things that he taught me, was a good tip, and I always like to tell the stage that he said, what's one of the most valuable words that you can learn in this business? And it's the word next. And that's a good one, because in this business we have a lot of successes and we have a lot of lows. And what you have to learn is how to shed off the lows, and using the word next is a great way, to kind of shed that off. And so from when we sort of learn those tips as a young agent on team, some people it connects, and some people they can't seem to connect to it. I think that's helped. Some of those things have helped me to be a better leader with my own group.
Tell me an example of that.
Yeah.
Tell me your example of next.
Gosh, you want to tell you how many
When
times
you use this the most.
I'll tell you how many times I was on the fetal position in my kitchen because I lost a deal. There's a lot of things in this business that can really test you. And, it's a personal business. And with that being said, you can be easily surprised at certain things that don't happen. So, there have been times where I've had friends that have opted not to use me as their realtor. And it was a question, of course, the big question is why. And sometimes you don't get those answers, and so those are testing moments that you go through, there are times where you're working on a big deal. I remember I was working on, I went up to Boca and I was showing this couple, and it was a referral from a friend of mine. And we were looking, and I met the couple, picked them up in my car. We drove around for a full day looking at properties. And then, the courtship over a month's time, she got in a car accident. I was like the second person she called. She needed help. I was giving her, numbers to people that can assist her with her car and assist her with her rehab. Just fully vested, in these people. And this one stung a little bit. It was coming to the end of the year, and they were looking at $5 million homes, maybe up to 6. And there was limited inventory because obviously it's a nice, expensive home, and there had special things that they wanted, so it really kind of squeezed down the properties that
they were looking at, and they said they kind of told me, hey, we got this other property, it's a condo, we need to sell that too. And so I'm in my mental mindset, I'm like, okay, well, there we go, I got another opportunity there. And then driving with them, just in like conversation, they had kind of mentioned to me that they'd found a buyer for it already. And I was like, oh, well, that's great. And of course I'm keeping mentally positive, of course inside I'm crying. And I'm like, oh, that's great. And I'm just going to keep my eye on the prize. And we're out here looking at some really nice houses. And this is, divine intervention works in my way. This is a good thing. It still works out well. And a week went by. I went away for a weekend on a trip, and I came back, and I was texting her and trying to get back started to go seeing things, and she kind of was acting a little strange in the text, and then a week went by again, and I reached out to her again. I said, hey, how are things going? What's going on? I want to get back on, see what you guys are up to. And she says, oh my gosh, I'd love to see you. She's like, I'd love to invite you over. We're going to have a big party next week. and
Invite you home.
And come see. And she actually sent me a text message of a video of her house that she had.
Oh my gosh, that's so
she had purchased it for cash for over $6 million. And that was
it was not our old girlfriend, right?
That was the worst movie I ever watched in my life.
Let me ask you this directly.
That was a movie with a horrible ending.
And it was an old ex-girlfriend that you dumped?
Gosh,
yes or no?
I don't know. Maybe that was bad karma coming back from an old ex-girlfriend or something like that. That's probably what it was. But it was it was a terrible day.
So the lesson is never take a weekend when they
never
negotiate.
Not take weekends off.
House.
See, I'm telling you, this is a horrible business. If you're listening to this right now, maybe you don't want to get into real estate because you have to be doing this all the time. If you take a weekend off, you lose $6 million. That's what I've learned. That's the valuable lesson I learned.
That's pretty cool, man. It's good to share this, because I'm pretty sure that there is other people living in the exact same situation. They're new in the business and see this. And having a little way that I try to teach my guys about this is, first of all, have an abundant mindset.
Yeah.
So abundance is very important that you have in your mindset. The second one is make sure you understand that numbers game. Okay? So whenever you lose a job, if you understand your numbers and you say every $100 million
right.
that I negotiate, I will lose $90 million, but I will keep, for a 10. And that's going to be part of the 90. They're going to be closer to your 10 that you're going to make, right? So numbers game, that's something that I try to teach. And once you automate your business and you're doing this professionally more and more, we start to understand that. Of course, we still feel a little bad, but there's a good way to approach this.
You use the word systems, what I think is a very important thing. And I know from your background, you invest a lot in different marketing strategies. I think that's important. I think that you kind of have to have a couple spinning plates. And you got to run them for a little while. You kind of have to take the risk. I think that's probably a little bit of it too. Yeah. But the one thing that I'm getting really good at right now is making sure that people understand that, with every risk, you want to measure and evaluate how, where you're at with that process.
I have a process for investment in my company, and I teach them all about this.
Yeah.
The way that I do, because right now it's not me that taking all the shots. It's not me that's making all the decisions. So I'm creating my business. I'm growing my business for other people to take decisions, so I don't need to take them all. And one of the things that I'm creating is how to innovate in my business, or how to get into opportunities.
Okay.
The way I teach them is this, and we have a code for this. You have a code. The code is called Protect the Core.
Okay.
That is related a little bit to this, and we have Improve All the Time. Improve All the Time allows mistakes. We have to allow mistakes whenever we are trying to get something better for us. Because if you don't allow mistakes, we're never going to try and take risks, okay? Yep. But what I teach people is that the mistakes that's allowed should not be incapacitating or deadly. What I mean by that, the mistake should not remove one arm or a limb. You understand?
Sure.
The mistake should be calculated to be hurtful, but not as much that you're never going to come back to your actual state.
Right.
Okay?
Right. Makes sense.
And then, because there is so many opportunities out there, you should be targeting only 10x opportunities. Okay. because like there is so many opportunities. So don't chase the small opportunities, right? So try to, if you want to chase an opportunity that you invest X and you have 10X.
Right.
Okay. This is the way that we do to be trying to get new opportunities. And that's why this podcast, I saw, I can invest this big money to create this podcast with you and other people and and I decided, why not create a media company that I'm creating?
Why not? Why not?
Why not create a media company? And that's been pretty cool because I saw, I'm investing in my potential. If I have to close this tomorrow,
Right.
it will not kill me.
Right.
Do you understand?
So it's a calculated risk.
It's a calculated risk, correct?
Yeah.
But in the calculation, we have a rule, and what is the rule? I have to be able to get to my state pretty fast after if I make the mistake.
Right.
Should not kill my business. Should not be deadly. Understand?
Yeah.
And then have to have a potential outcome of 10x what I'm investing, in terms of times and stuff.
And I think that's a really, the one part I like about what you just said, which is kind of protect the house first.
Correct.
So if this podcasting media company somehow jeopardizes what's funneling or funding this, then it's not a good business idea.
It's not a good business. So what I'm doing right now to not be jeopardizing this,
Right.
I'm getting out of sales.
Yeah.
Because I know that my time, and I'm reinventing the company so I can now automate things, and the company can start thriving as me more as a mentor
Yeah.
than an actual salesperson.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So, and that's a very, very interesting moment right now for me. It's a little scary,
Well,
I
you're
think.
trusting people to do what you were doing before.
Yeah, when you get out like automating all the other portions of my business was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because I didn't like it.
Yeah.
And I was not. I was good, but I was not as good as other people could potentially be. Automating the accounting, pretty cool. I hate accounting.
That was easy to do.
I like to understand the financial strategies, but the accounting,
Yeah. Yeah.
be chasing
The
money and
bookkeeping.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I cannot do this. Automating the project management, it was a blessing, But automating sales, I love to go into people's house and talk, and I'm very good at it.
Yeah.
And I sell pretty good deals,
Yeah.
And I sell 90% of the business in my company last year, and right now I'm structuring my company to sell less than 20% because I'm not going to be there anymore. Understand?
How much time? I had a question for you. How much time in that structure that you have, which is like you're kind of the opener. You're the culture guy. You walk in the door, you get the deal. Who's the opposite of you on the opposite? It's kind of the yin and the yang, right?
What do you mean by that?
Who's the guy that keeps the deals? So who's the Augusto of you're the one that sort of gets in there and wins over the opportunity, and then you hand it over to these project managers to complete the service, right?
Yes.
But who's the retainment guy like you? Who's the one that keeps in touch with them, keeps them happy, keeps them trying to maybe try to get them to get referrals? Because that's an important spot too. Yeah. As they say, it's much harder to keep finding new deals than it is to kind of consistently nurture the ones that you have.
I'm not being good at it.
All right,
Sincerely with you.
that's fine. That's good.
Because it was supposed to be me.
Yeah,
And I structure systems inside my company to be followed.
yeah,
But I was, I don't think my system is ready yet.
yeah,
It was no problem because we could only take care of a certain amount of production.
right.
Okay. And I could not take care of more than this.
Yeah.
And we have been setting up steps to be growing. Right now, it's different.
Yeah,
Right now, I have to use more the repeated businesses. Okay. Before, I was with Ian the other day, and he mentioned to me, "Hey, I spent $200,000 in Google Ads and stuff." I say, "Man." Because I'm creating this media company, and one of my strategies is to come to tradespeople and offer them type of marketing structure. I'm gonna tell this after.
yeah,
But the point is, he comes to me and say, "Man, how do you do it? Blah, blah, blah. I have $200,000." And I say, "Yeah, do you know how much I spend in Google Ads? Zero." You say, what do you do for your fucker?
He didn't like that. He didn't like that answer. I'm sure. He didn't like that answer.
And we do more or less the same amount of business, me and him,
Right.
you know, and I have zero money
Yeah.
invested into paid ads. Now I'm jumping to this
Yeah.
because now I'm scaling up the company and I need to do this, you
Yeah.
know, because what I've done was to create a machine of organic and relationship, but not this following up that you're telling me, but the relationship about the satisfaction of the customer at the time that you are doing their jobs.
Right.
And then, unfortunately, I'm not good to be like soliciting them after.
Yeah.
So I lose a little bit of space. I could be selling a lot more.
Yeah.
But the point is, they always remember us
Well, that's good.
because we are pretty good in do like and try to serve the best.
Yeah.
The customer, you know.
And that's something
And that
that
comes from the culture.
I think a lot of people struggle with that too. I think that's something that I still struggle with as well. You know, trying to keep contact with people. You know, it's you start getting after quite a few years, you start getting a nice pool of people that, you know, you lose kind of the personal.
You were struggling to get in contact, to keep me in contact with you.
It's tough.
Fortunately, I'm buying media. I'm buying all this equipment for you to keep in touch with.
That's all it is. You gotta. I'm like
Now we cannot do otherwise.
You
right?
you
obliged
trap
to.
me. You trap me here. That's what it is. You know how to feed my ego, so that's why I stick around you. But no, I mean it's tough. You know, you always try to figure out how to keep in touch with people, and the truth of the matter is that you know the science of all sales is referral.
Yeah.
And it's not acquisition, it's referral. You know, and so but it's so hard, or at least it feels so hard, on how to really kind of make long lasting relationships out of people that you've done business with so long ago, and still give them the time that you're trying to give new people to that you're working on. You know.
Yeah. But the point is, what I think is this, you know, as you evolve, because like, I don't know, but probably for you is the same.
Yeah.
And for the guys, that's going to be for the realtors, you know, we always want to evolve. We always, so today I want to be the $1 million guy, a realtor.
Yep.
Tomorrow I want to be the $10 million realtor. In 10 years, I want to be $100 million. And then I would like to be $1 billion guys.
Sure.
Yeah, okay, let's say this.
Yep.
My account goes to 1 trillion.
Man, once you're
Because
on my
1 billion
team,
is not bigger
once you're on my
enough
team.
right now with this word. Anyways, but the point is you have to understand that that's important to keep, but also to how to reinvent yourself in your own networking.
Right.
You know, because what I was having this conversation with my wife and saying, my wife right now, we need to be, because we became a different people, right? So I'm not the same Augusto that I came to the United States like 7 years ago.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So if I want to be impactful and serve a lot of people and really make a difference in the world,
Yeah.
I should understand that I need to be evolving in my relationship. It doesn't mean necessarily that you don't need to take care of the guys that you met before, you know?
Yeah.
It means that you need to create structures to take care of the guys you met before, so they are completely covered, but you need to be chasing different levels of networking and follow up and stuff. And that's I'm pretty good at, you know? So
Seems like your whole life is around evolving, which is good.
yeah.
Which is really good.
So not my whole life. The entire culture of my entire
which you've taken into your business. Yeah.
And that's very interesting because what I say about my business, the captains, you know, because the captains is the philosophy of the business, is I create something to imprison myself. You know, I really create something to put myself and be obliged to evolve. You know, so that's why I created this as a culture. And our culture is about actions. It's about real actions into life.
Right.
And being the founder and the mentor and you know the first captain, whatever.
Right.
I'm kind of obliged to show the example, right? So it chased me. My company is is very interesting because it's a blessing,
Right.
but it's at the same time it's pretty challenging because sometimes you need a little time, to rest and to do shit
don't get
and
that.
to drink and get
You don't-
drunk,
No.
In my life, my company does not want me to do this.
No. You gotta eat. You gotta eat, drink, and sleep what you're doing.
Yes.
But that, I think that's the trait of somebody who wants to be, a giver, a leader, and demonstrate that through your actions, And so you kind of have to give up a little bit of yourself in order to create create an amazing company that you're creating and diversifying that to other segments and other people. And you got to put a little bit of you into everybody, because remember, that, as you bring new people on, they don't know the company culture that as well as you do, or the people that you've had over there. So somebody's got to take that on as sort of the corporate culture guru too. I think that's the evolving of anybody, right? In a company, if you think about like people like Steve Jobs, or I mean, gosh, any big time company who created a Zuckerbergs or the Dorseys of the world, any figure that created an amazing company, they evolved out of being sort of the architect of the company to being sort of the corporate motivator, like the cultural leader of the company. And they hire people below them that they feel comfortable with it, because you can actually do the operational stuff, right? And then that's what you do. Like you diversify you extend, so that the people around you in that company can look and say, okay, that's our leader up there. That's what he's doing. He's obviously I'm the interest of going into media and podcasting is everybody has it. Not everybody can do this, Luckily, I have a nice financier here that can handle, all the heavy lifting stuff. I just have to come on and talk but
And be beautiful in front of the camera.
Smile and try not to say stupid things.
And guys, if you want to see in the future, we're gonna have different scenarios too. Okay.
Yeah.
Be tuned.
Yeah, we're gonna have some really, really cool topics, and I'm excited about that, and some really cool people, that I think we all can learn a little bit from, and obviously hear some of the stuff that we talked about behind the scenes as well, which I think would be really cool to hear some dirt. It's not all sales stuff. It's gonna be some good.
Yeah, and that's the point, So we should be real. And the idea of this podcast is, say, Jay just talked to me. Hey, how do you do to follow up? Say, I don't do this correctly, I am a mess, But I do this that substitutes this and it still make my business go very well.
Absolutely. Life should be an endless pursuit of the right thing. Maybe not you're doing everything right.
I think only to get back to this point, very interesting, because I when I talk to my salespeople, I say, man, you should be better than me. Because I'm a shit salesperson. But I have something very strong because I really care when I'm selling.
There you go.
Do you understand?
There you go.
So I think because when I come to a home and I start talking to people, I really understand them. I get really, Jay, into the customer's mind, in their family mind. I try really hard to understand what their perspective. And I get, the other day I got a hug from a customer, customer, hey, I would like to hug you. Can you hug you? Yes, of course, hug me, And he gave me a japamala.
In my business, they call it sexual harassment, but in your business, you get hugs. I like that.
If you want to hug me, you can hug me as much as you can.
Sounds like a new T-shirt.
Yes.
That's good.
Hug me.
Hug me. If you're happy with my service, hug me.
Not softly, but hug me.
No, I mean, listen, I think that's, whether it's a hug, whether it's an appreciation, a comment or something. I mean, it's, obviously, you've done something special when you get a connection like that from somebody.
Yeah. But circling back to this podcast, the entire idea is like, the media, social media, and everything is so much fake stuff,
Yeah,
and
I agree.
And even when it is not fake, people really direct the information.
Yeah.
To be fancy and to be beautiful to
polished.
Polished is the word.
I always say I can never compete against somebody that can do a yoga pose in a business suit, talking about motivation while closing a deal. It's like it's just not going to have that audience of people that want to like my post.
And thank you for polish. Polish is the right word. And then, guys, to be sincere with you, one of the things I don't know if you know this, but I'm gonna tell firsthand is like one of the things that contributes for my decision to invest into the media company, in the podcast, and everything
Yeah.
is to make me a better person into the English language.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because I will be like I'm gonna be obliged to get outside my box.
That's good.
And be learning and speaking better because I'm gonna be like
Well, you could say whatever
a
you want to. You
communicator
say
now.
whatever you want to here. So this is great, right? But yeah, no, I mean, I think that's great. You pushing your envelope and out of your comfort zone, and you're absolutely right. I think that there's so much, fake, whatever you want to call it. Am I guilty of it too? Sure, but do I have 20 filters on my phone that I can change everything that I look and way I sound and the backgrounds and. No, but I don't know. Maybe will that hold me back? I don't know. Sometimes I'm just human as well too. I look at people's posts and sit there and go, Jesus, how do they get 1,000 likes on this? But they're selling something that somebody likes, and maybe those are empty. Social media is tough because you there's an audience of people out there that aren't buying, but they'll like everything you do. And I've got guys and girls on my team that, have 100,000, 300,000, followers. Does that mean that they're selling, crazy amount of homes? No. But, maybe they don't know how to monetize that yet,
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing.
That's very interesting because something that we want here is to have the right audience, and then sometimes you have the wrong audience for what is your perspective,
Yes.
and what you want to do, and that's it's very very interesting. Do you like this format? What do you think?
Yeah, I do. I think that, I like the conversational aspect of this. This is good. I still want my real stuff t-shirt,
I'll be producing this.
And I think that,
Let me get my first dollar from if you want to be a sponsor right now.
Sponsors, please call 1-888. But yeah, I think that, the one thing that I really liked when you approached me with this idea was that right off the bat, you and I were on the same page with that, this needs to be different than just a coaching call. We need to talk about real stuff, and it could be conversations that are uncomfortable, in real estate. But I like the honesty approach that you mentioned, maybe I'll make sure I don't shave when I come here and, and just,
your hair like this.
Just
you're
hair's look
I think
crazy
you came
today.
the right way today,
and
man.
just ran out of bed to come here. It's like, oh shit, I'm 10 minutes late already. It's great time management for my first podcast. But yeah, no, I think that this format's going to be great. I think that it'll be interesting to involve a third person here where we can, we can collect some stories off of them as well too. And I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to the next conversation we have with somebody here that we can kind of interview together and pull some things off of and keep it sort of an open table of collaboration of ideas and stories. Cause you're going to say something that I'm not even thinking about. That's going to spark a story into myself or a question.
Okay. Because we're talking about the real thing. Tell me the craziest story that you have as a real thing,
The craziest story that I have is a real thing.
It could be, the saddest or whatever, something that was extremely impactful in one way or the other way. That normally you don't share.
Yeah, what's not a crazy? I have to really. There's some more stupid things that happen, and it's crazy. I will tell you one thing that was like kind of like a crazy thing that happened to me, which I was kind of like just like dumbfounded. You deal with a lot of stuff, like a lot of emotional stuff. I've had people crying in their car to me about, something's going on in their relationship, and I've been all of a sudden like a relationship counselor, and my wife's making me sleep on the couch at home. I can't give you advice on my own life and your life. But no, but situational stuff certainly happens a lot in this business, which is like kind of kooky. One thing that I remember that was just kind of blown away was that I had a property that I was representing out-of-state owners on, and I got them into a deal with an agent buyer. She was an agent and a buyer, and so in our business, you kind of get certain privileges as an agent because you have a license to protect. And so she got the pass. She got the pass to her to the lockbox that got her entry into this unit, this house. And so during the deal, she starts complaining that the property wasn't really she was concerned because she felt like she overpaid for this property, and she was nervous about the appraisal coming in the next week. And I said, at the end of the day, we were like, well, that's a you problem. It's not us a problem. We hope it passes, obviously, but we can, not much we can do about that. So about 4 days later, I get a call from the neighbor. Well, actually, I get a call from the owner who lives out of state. And she said, well, my neighbor called me. And something's going on over at the house. You got to get over there. And I said, well, what's going on? She says, well, she says there's a bunch of workers coming in and out of the house all night last night, literally all night. And I was like, really? I was like, at night? It's like, well, maybe they're mistaken. I know that this agent was going to take over some contractors and take a look at the property and kind of get some estimates, And she's like, no, I need you to go over there. I go, well, I wasn't able to do it the next day, but I said, I'll give me another day. So it was about 5 days that passed. So I happened to go over there. And sure enough, there's all of these material supplies are stacked around this whole house. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? So I walked over to get the key, and the key wasn't in the box. I was like, oh, Jesus, what's going on? So I walked around the back, and I found one of the sliding doors was unlocked, which wasn't good as well. I opened the door up, and this woman had actually went into the house and gutted the entire house and was already laying floors down and removed the walls of the kitchen. She was planning on redoing the kitchen. And I was, to be honest with you, I was fearful of my own license. I was like, did I do something right? I go through my whole process. Did I do something wrong? Did I give her the key? Did I let her know that it was okay to do this, because, she doesn't own the property. She can't just, and God forbid she, busted a water main or, set the house on fire. It was a bad situation, and what makes the situation worse, and I forgot this part of the story, was that the house was actually given to me. While the house was given to me, the actual owner of the home passed away, so it was in him and his wife's name. So it was a very sensitive situation. So here I got this poor woman, husband just passed away. He was I was the last phone call he made at night at 3 a.m. He called me, and he passed away that night, and so it was a very sensitive thing. And then of course 3 weeks later, I'm dealing with this. Her house is completely, ripped apart. And here's the thing too: the house doesn't close, or for some reason she can't get the appraisal. Now I have to figure out how to explain this. This house is now not what it was before. So ultimately, we had to let her complete the project, which was really, really strange to have somebody doing a complete renovation on a house that she didn't own. And so that was
you let her, you have to let her.
Yeah, obviously we I brought the owner in the situation. It was it was a bad day. I had to call the lady up, and she completely lied to me. Said I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't been over there in a couple of days. And I'm like, well, unfortunately, I'm standing in the living room of an entire house that does not look like it was a week ago. So, somebody's doing work here, and I'm assuming it's you. So she confessed to it, and she's like, I was afraid that the appraisal wasn't going to happen. And I just didn't even know how to address that, honestly. I'm on the board of realtors. I was like, you want to just maybe bring your license to me right now, and we can just hold on to that for you. So, those are crazy things that happen. I haven't had any, I'm a married man, so I haven't had any girls gone wild stories that I can share, as far as, things go a little crazier than that. I've been pretty tame with some of the things, but I've heard some pretty cool behind the scenes stories of nutty things that happen.
It's going to be good. Just
a little too juicy with them
in the future.
Make sure we know the audience.
So tune to the next episode, guys.
Girls Gone Wild Real Estate. That'll be someone I'll interview.
That's going to be for sure. Get the hottest girls that went wild in real estate.
Honey, if you're listening, full disclosure, that's someone I'm interviewing, not something that I will disclose.
And he didn't participate to the episode, the situation.
This is being recorded.
Anyways, okay,
yeah.
That's great, Jay.
That was good stuff. Good stuff.
I think it was pretty cool. Probably next time we're gonna need to have I think we're gonna need to have our bar.
I think so.
Yeah, here,
I think
right?
so.
We can. It's gonna be easy to be serving.
Yes,
people, I ran
yeah.
out of my beer.
I'm
today.
already gone as well too. So yeah, we know that this is at least longer than
Always-
one cup of beer. That's
Yeah, there's in our code we have improve all the time. So
there it is. There it
like
is.
we're gonna be always improving this podcast here, this structure, everything.
That's great. Well, I
Don't worry
appreciate
about that.
this, and listen, I'm really looking forward to this journey, which is really what it's going to be. Because
Yeah.
obviously we have no idea who's going to be listening to this, and
Yeah.
who cares.
Yeah, it's
But
gonna
if
be,
nothing else, you and I'll have a good afternoon together.
sure,
You
with
know,
some people, yeah, it's gonna be cool. Yeah, and that's what we have to think.
Yeah.
Guys, if you want a good tip about like social media, creating a YouTube channel and so on, is like, see something that can have traction, of course. Think about the 10X.
Yeah.
But also do something that you're gonna enjoy.
Yeah.
The journey. The journey is the most important. The outcome is gonna come, one way, the other way. The journey is very important in
I
the
agree.
process,
I agree.
Okay, guys, so here with Jay Garnieri and I'm Augusto Alaja. We are finalizing our podcast, the first episode ever.
We should be toasting this. Let's toast
only us doing this.
This is
Only
great, this is
Andre.
great.
That's good to see you here, Andre. our tech
we have one
guy.
listener. We have one listener here right now. So
That's
this is
great.
great.
Pretty cool, guys. So see you soon in
Awesome.
the second episode that we don't know yet when it's gonna happen.
Looking forward to it.
Yes.